It appears logical. Bitcoin peaks when people take profit and Bitcoin bottoms when all the sellers have been exhausted. But things are a bit more nuanced than that. Let's have a look at on-chain data most people are not considering. What we've got over here is the realized cap net position change over time. And when this turns green, this means a lot of people take profit. When this turns red, it means a lot of people lock in losses. Now, when the market in aggregate realizes losses, that's usually a good time to buy, right? Because that's the time when there's blood on the streets. That's the time when most people gave up on Bitcoin. At least when the short-term holders gave up. However, we can't necessarily say the same for profit taking. Because yes, there is more profit taking when Bitcoin's price peaks, but the amount of profit that gets taken is vastly different from peak to peak. So the losses seem to be somewhat aligning in their magnitude. So that's the COVID crash over here, and that's the Celsius and FTX collapse over here. So those are good buying opportunities, but finding the right selling opportunity is actually the tricky part. Right, there is this famous Bitcoin logarithmic regression chart, the famous rainbow chart. And I'm not saying that this approach works, but what I am saying is that the price tends to be at those lower levels for much longer than they are at those elevated levels, right? We peak for a very brief moment in time usually, but we are at lower levels for much longer. So independent of the on-chain metrics, simply just looking at the duration we spend in each phase, it's much easier to buy low compared to selling high. Selling high is again the hard part. And so here we've got a different representation of what we've seen in the prior net position change chart. This shows us the absolute realized profit and loss, but now separately color coded. And again, when people lock in losses, that's when we want to buy. Currently, we are simply very calm, right? There isn't a lot of trading happening. When a lot of gains and losses get realized, that's when the trend in general tends to turn around. When there's not a lot of trading volume, the current trend tends to just continue. And one might argue that we aren't necessarily in a bullish trend right now, right? Since April of this year, we are trending rather down. Now, why are there those massive cycles in Bitcoin? Why does Bitcoin crash by 80% and by 70% to then subsequently recover? What's causing those waves? I believe this is a movement from long-term holding to short-term holding. Because check this out. When the price is going up, so that's the gray area in the background, the number of short-term holders tends to increase. So that's this red line over here. When we stop rallying, the short-term holders exit the market. The exact opposite can be said for the long-term holders, so that's the line in blue. When the price is rallying, the long-term holders tend to take profit, so they move their Bitcoin into the short-term holders' hands. Once there aren't enough new short-term holders to continue the rally, that's when the price rally stops, and that's when the long-term holders start to take over again and tend to accumulate. And so we want to sell with the long-term holders, right? We want to sell when they are taking profit. And we want to get out when too many short-term holders enter the market. It looks like we are getting more healthy again, right? More and more Bitcoin is held by the long-term holders, less and less is held by the short-term holders. And when there are more long-term holders in the market, the liquid supply of Bitcoin tends to dry up, right? And less supply means, of course, potentially higher prices when demand stays stable. And vice versa, right? When most of Bitcoin is held by the short-term holders, and just a little bit of a price wick might already freak out those short-term holders and they might sell very quickly. Thus, a rally might become more and more unstable as more short-term holders take over. That's what I believe is fundamentally going on with those massive ups and downs in the Bitcoin market. It's simply speculation. It's funds moving from long-term holders to short-term holders back to long-term holders. This needs to go to 1 million or March buyers now will make millions. This is how you get the clicks on YouTube, but this is not how you beat the market. To beat the market in crypto, you need to be better informed than the rest. You need to be better skilled than the rest. You need to do better blockchain analytics. You need to track other people's wallets and know what is the smart money doing. It's the boring educational content that forms skill that doesn't perform so well on YouTube though. That's why I created the premium membership. Feel free to check it out. We are tracking influencer wallets to find out what they are buying before promoting this on YouTube. We've got a lot of tutorials to help with on-chain analytics, to help with wallet discovery. And of course, there are also plenty of chats where we help each other and also one-on-one conversations with me. So I'm messaging every premium member one-on-one directly. Once you're joining, you will get a message from me and you have the opportunity to directly pick my brain. Feel free to check it out, thebitcointrader.com, link is down below. And so in the end, what really matters is our psychological anchor point in the market, right? If you buy Bitcoin and you're underwater with your Bitcoin, you're in losses with your Bitcoin, and you still believe in Bitcoin long term, then you probably will not sell that Bitcoin. You will simply just wait out for the next bull run. And that's what's indicated over here with the market value to realized value Z-score. Whenever the current price is below the average cost basis of the market, which is indicated in blue, whenever our price is below that, then it's a great time to buy. That's when the market in aggregate is in losses. And that's when selling pressure tends to dry up. However, if the market in aggregate is in massive profit and everybody sees green in their portfolio, then it might make sense to sell. Now, this doesn't always peak out at the exact same levels. And it seems like our recent peak is somewhat comparable to 2019, where we then subsequently saw the COVID crash. Who knows if we're going to see another COVID-like crash? But again, currently the momentum isn't that positive. So what are we exactly calculating here? We are looking at the current profit of the market in aggregate relative to the current volatility. So when we have a lot of volatility in the price, we can accept more profit. When we don't have that much volatility, we can accept less profit. We simply see what's the current profit relative to the volatility. And because of that adjustment, historically, even though the volatility was much higher in the early days, we do see some kind of alignment in those tops. It does make sense to aggressively sell whenever we get into the red, but it does make sense sometimes to even sell before that. Again, it depends on the portfolio allocation. If you're buying heavily at 3.5K and then it goes to more than 10K and you move from 20% allocation of Bitcoin to 60%, it might already make sense at that point in time to at least take partially profits. Now there's one piece of data where I'm not 100% sure how to interpret this, and maybe you've got an idea. Feel free to comment this down below, and that's the stablecoin market cap. There are two different ways to look at the stablecoin market cap. We can look at this in aggregate for all chains, and that's shown over here in red. And the nice thing about that stablecoin market cap is that it shows very nicely when altcoins tend to rally. So since October of last year, this is going up. And since October of last year, we had all of that meme coin trading frenzy. And of course, when we are shrinking, when there's no money flowing into crypto and there's more redemptions to fiat, that's a point in time where we want to be out of altcoins. It's not a perfect measure for Bitcoin, but it's pretty good for timing the altcoin market. Now, here is the thing I'm not so sure about. In the recent past, we do see across all chains how the stablecoin market cap tends to slightly increase again. However, very often stablecoins get bridged over to other chains. And normally, if we want to redeem towards fiat, the only stablecoin that can be redeemed directly to fiat with the issuer is the stablecoin on Ethereum. So in order to turn, say, USDC on the Binance Smart Chain into fiat, what needs to happen under the hood is that the USDC has to be moved back to Ethereum, and then the USDC tokens have to be sent to Circle, that then does the conversion into fiat. And the reason why I believe this is relevant is because, again, we see recently this rise in stablecoins across all chains, but we don't see that for the stablecoins on Ethereum. For the stablecoins on Ethereum, we haven't seen any expansion since April of this year. Again, it went up since October of last year, up until April, but since April, we are going sideways. And this does align with the relevance of the altcoins, right? Since April of this year, the altcoin dominance went from 13.5% to 9.6%. So a drop in relevance of 28%, or roughly 4 percentage points. So I personally tend to believe this chart more, and this doesn't necessarily tell a convincing story for the alts. So the Bitcoin price seems to be stabilizing somewhat. We don't have a lot of short-term traders anymore in the market, but people still are in aggregate in profit, and we tend to trend downwards in the direction of the realized price, which by the way is currently at 32K. And the big question is money really flowing into crypto at the moment? Because we don't see this across all chains. We definitely don't see it on Ethereum. I publish videos like this regularly, so feel free to subscribe in order not to miss the next one. If you enjoyed this, feel free to also give it a like because it helps the channel grow. In case you've got Telegram, then feel free to join us. The link is down below. Looking very much forward to chatting with you.